The United States is still trying to comprehend. 64-year-old retired accountant Stephen Paddock, armed with 23 weapons, stood at a hotel window and opened fire on thousands of people. The Nevada resident killed at least 59 people and injured more than 500 when he shot round after round into a crowded concert in Las Vegas. His motive is not yet clear, but authorities say there's no link to terrorism. Tonight, we have two correspondents in Las Vegas. Stephanie March reports on what we know about the gunman. But first, Connor Duffy details how the attack unfolded.
22,000 people came to scoot to country music. Instead, they were strafed with automatic gunfire.
We just hit the ground and just laid there and hang on to each other. And it was quiet for a bit and then fired another 30 rounds.
Tino Vieras was selling beers to thirsty music fans. He ended up saving lives.
Just laid on the ground and everybody just started coming over the bar, coming underneath the bar, and I told everybody just stay down.
Did you hear bullets hitting the outside?
It was hitting my container I was in. I could hear all the ricocheting.
He couldn't get everyone inside, and he'll never forget the innocent girl murdered in front of him. And you said you saw some people that had been hit by bullets?
Yes, actually, when I was at the container, when I went around the corner, I kind of ducked down, and there was a girl laying there with her eyes wide open, and she was pale white. And at that point, I knew she was deceased.
Dominic Cabezas was another hero. He got out, but returned to help people being trampled as they raced for an escape.
I went back to tear down the fence in the back over there and helping people over the fence because they're trying to jump and get caught on the fence. And I was just helping people get up and keep them moving, you know. For me, it's just what had to be done.
Did you see people get hurt or shot?
Yeah, on the way out, I saw two get hit.
The man responsible, Stephen Paddock, was on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel, around 400 metres from the stage at the Route 91 Harvest Country Music Festival. Paddock smashed the window of his hotel room with a hammer. Just after 10 p.m. local time, he started firing, pausing only to reload. By 11 o'clock, police had closed down the strip. Then shortly before midnight, SWAT teams stormed the hotel room.
We need to pop this and see if we get any type of response from this guy to see if he's in here or if he's actually moved out somewhere else. Breach. One suspect down in 135, 432 Mandalay Bay. I have the floor.
Paddock was dead. He had 23 firearms in his room. Australian Uber driver Justin Handley helped the traumatised to safety, picking up 6 women who were trapped nearby.
One of the girls, someone standing, like 1 or 2 feet away from them, went down, was hit with a bullet, and they ran for their lives, which is what they said.
But they were happy to see you and get taken home.
Oh yeah, they were exhausted, they were traumatised.
It's left him distressed and ready to return home.
Nevada's a really dangerous place. You've got open carry, anyone can get a gun. Even with this thing that's happened here today, I could get in my car now and go to Walmart and buy a rifle and bullets.
Authorities have finished combing through this now infamous hotel room on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Centre, but there's still a big mystery, and that's why. Why go on a murderous rampage that's now the worst in America's history?
Hold hands and be united.
Many in the city are finding answers and strength in faith. Connor Duffy, ABC News, Las Vegas.
North America correspondent Stephanie March is in Las Vegas. Stephanie, how is the city coping with the tragedy?
Well, Karina, I'm here outside the Mandalay Bay Casino where the shooter carried out this horrific attack. And essentially, this should be the entertainment capital of the world, but right now it's a crime scene. Other than a few locals who've come here to pay their respects, it's pretty much empty. Further down the strip, some of the hotels and casinos are back up in business. There are people in the bars, there are people at the gaming tables, but it's definitely quieter than usual. And there's a real sombre tone here in the city, particularly among the locals. A lot of people think of Las Vegas Vegas as a tourist town, and they forget that this is home to a permanent population who've been seriously affected by this tragedy. A lot of them headed off to vigils earlier tonight. Again, a very sad mood at those vigils, but there was a definite sense of unity, and a lot of people say they do expect this city will recover, but they are expecting hotels to take a very serious look at their security procedures.
And Steph, do we know any more details about the gunman's reported girlfriend, Australian woman Mary Lou Danley?
Well, in the hours after the shooting, police released a photo of Mary Lou Danley describing her as a companion of the gunman and saying they wanted to talk to her. We understand she was living with him at his home northeast of the city, and they found some of her ID cards in his hotel room. Police now say that they have located her outside of the country. They've spoken with her over the phone, and they don't think that she had any involvement in this massacre. That said, they would like to talk to her upon her return to the United States as they try to learn more about the man behind this horrific attack. A nation in shock at the scale of this massacre, and a family stunned it was committed by one of their own.
If an asteroid fell right here, you would feel the exact same way as I feel right now. There's exactly no logic, no reach even for me, where my brother would have done this.
The killer's brother says he had no political or religious affiliations and showed no sign of mental illness.
He did stuff. He went to college, he had a job. You know, we owned some apartments, we sold some apartments. There's nothing.
Now Eric Paddock also wants answers.
Where the hell did he get automatic weapons? He has no military background or anything like that.
Stephen Paddock didn't have a criminal record, but his father Benjamin Paddock was a notorious bank robber. He made it onto the FBI's most wanted list after breaking out of jail in 1968 and has been described as a psychopath. The shooter lived in Nevada with his girlfriend, Mary Lou Danley, who once called the Gold Coast home and is believed to currently be in Japan.
We are making arrangements to contact her upon her return.
The pair lived in this 3-bedroom house in Mesquite, which Paddock, a wealthy retiree, bought 2 years ago.
It's a nice, clean home, and there's nothing out of the ordinary.
That was until police raided it.
In excess of 18 additional firearms, some explosives, and several thousand rounds of ammo, along with some electronic devices that we are evaluating at this point.
Police believe Paddock methodically brought 23 guns into his hotel in more than 10 suitcases, which he carried in one by one over the 4 days he stayed here. Some of the rifles appear to have been modified so they could fire off shots more quickly, modifications that may have helped Paddock become America's worst mass shooter of modern times. Stephanie March, ABC News, Las Vegas.
Good evening. It's the deadliest mass shooting in American history. A wealthy, reclusive gambler with no criminal history, but an arsenal of automatic weapons opened fire from his hotel room.
By the time he turned the gun on himself, he'd taken the lives of at least 59 concert goers and left more than 500 injured. Our US correspondent Ashley Mullaney begins our coverage on the devastating massacre in Las Vegas.
Singing a love song to 22,000 people, country star Jason Aldean was interrupted by hatred. The band ran, but there was no respite for the crowd. Nowhere to shelter from bullets raining down. 9 rounds a second in 10-second bursts. The lull between as he changed weapons.
He was shooting everybody, and there was dead people everywhere, and he was just shooting randomly.
The shooter, 64-year-old Stephen Paddock. One man with guns and a grudge. Holed up in the Mandalay Bay Hotel, a 2-room suite turned sniper's nest. From the 32nd floor, he fired across the Las Vegas Boulevard towards the concert. The distance from his window to the stage, an estimated 450 metres. His weapons, either military grade or modified, 23 firearms, brought into the suite in 10 large suitcases. Australian Glenn Folks was sleeping just a few doors down.
Obviously a little bit panicked. and just sort of grabbed a few things and ran out the door.
Brian Hodge was staying in the room next to the shooters.
It was, you know, a good 100 rounds, and then there was a 5-second break, and then it was another 100 rounds that just kept going and going and going. And I was like, we need to be against the building and we need to hide and wait. And we did. We waited for 3.5 hours.
You were hiding in the bushes for 3.5 hours?
3.5 hours, yeah. And then 10, 15 SWAT guys came around pointing machine guns at our heads and telling us to put our hands in the air and identify ourselves, and then they finally escorted us off.
72 minutes after the first emergency calls, police blew their way into Paddock's room.
Breach, breach, breach.
They found him dead.
There's one down, 32nd floor, Mandalay Bay.
In his car, police discovered several kilos of the bomb ingredient ammonium nitrate. The Mandalay Bay Hotel was reopened to guests today, but Stephen Paddock's room on the 32nd floor is still a crime scene. So too are his 2 properties, where police remain tonight as they try to piece together a motive for this massacre.
The woman, Kaylin Anning, heard the gunfire. Her first instinct was to hide. Then panic set in.
There was people who were intoxicated, people just screaming and crying and running frantically all over the place, just trying to get anywhere, and I don't think anyone knew where to go.
Queenslander Sarah Sleater saw a woman shot right in front of her.
She said, "Oh my God, I've been shot," and she removed her hand and blood went everywhere.
She knew then they were under attack.
So we all dropped to the ground, we all climbed on top of each other.
But Sarah...
People were falling, tripping, just glasses smashing, just like out of a movie. We all piled into an elevator and went up, 12 of us, into someone's room and stayed there and hid out there for 4 hours because we didn't know what was going on.
But it soon became clear their night in Vegas had become a nightmare, where survival...
The former Gold Coaster Brian Hodge texted friends as bullets sprayed around him.
I always hear people talk about how they feel sad for a city when things like this happen, and now I get it. I feel really sad.
Also from the Gold Coast, survivor Sarah Sleater feels incredibly lucky.
That feeling of my children may not be able to grow up with a mom really got to me hard, and that is something that's going to be with me forever.
Sarah now lives in the US. She checked out of her hotel today and got on the first flight she could to get back home with her family.